Welcome back to the Faithfully Fit podcast, video cast. Man, we're doing it all in one now. Hey, so first off, I get a chance to introduce you to one of my very good buddies, Shaye Patel. But you guys know me. You know how much I value your stories. You know how much I think that sharing stories is a part of sharing ourselves. It lets people know where we are, how we got where we are now. And I've had the opportunity to actually be on Shaye's podcast, had a chance to share my story and hear a little bit of his. So I have just been super excited to get into this story. I did everything I could to bugger this up, man. I've had computers go down. I've had appointments get rescheduled, but finally we are here with my good friend, Shaye Patel, and the opportunity to talk to him, to hear his story. Now, before I actually let Shaye say anything, I'm going to let you continue to stare at his beautiful salt and pepper beard while I say this. So I have, Shaye is genuinely one of my good friends now, but I have in person met Shaye twice. Okay. Once was at the wedding of Kogan Nelson and Vanessa McCoy Nelson, which, has been on the podcast, and a couple of my very good friends, obviously good friends of Shaye. And then the second was at the CrossFit Games last year. Talking to Shaye the first time was great, stood out to me, very memorable. And then the second time was hilarious. And this just kind of tells you like how friendships develop, especially with, I think, people with our minds. Shaye walks up and we kind of do the handshake into the hug. It was just this awesome bear hug of a guy. So I've met him once and it just was already at a bear hug level. So guys, let me introduce you to my good friend, my bear hugging friend, Shaye Patel. Dude, Shaye, thank you so much for being on, dude.
Wow. Thank you. That was one of the most amazing intros I've ever heard. And I mean, I'm just giving you that virtual bear hug right now, but
dude, I appreciate it, brother. I appreciate it, man.
I mean, it's great to be on. Thank you for the invite. I'm humbled and honored to be here because I know the great work you do. And, we do share a very common bond in life, whether it be sport, family, beliefs, whatever it may be. And it's just great to talk to you and also all your listeners out there. So thank you.
Yeah, man. Dude, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Okay. So Shaye, I want to dive right in and here's where I want to dive into. Okay. So you have your own podcast. All right. And so do me a favor. I want you to tell me how and why you not how, but tell me why you started your podcast and what it is that you are trying to accomplish through your podcast. Cause I love what it is.
Thank you. Yeah. So the podcast is Strength Through Love and Fitness. Mm-hmm. And the idea came up when I just started sitting around, specifically through COVID. Mm-hmm. We were hanging out and I was like, I personally have a story, right? We all have stories. And we'll go down that rabbit hole later, but we've forgotten that we have stories and that we have something to share with somebody every day. And then I started noticing that a lot of the podcasts within my space, specifically CrossFit, they had podcasts, but they were always about the same things. Yes. One, it's about coaching, or you're interviewing a famous athlete or a famous coach, but nobody was telling the stories, the real life stories. And this spawned from a YouTube channel that I have back in Brazil. That I interviewed people from all walks of life who did CrossFit specifically. That doesn't exist anymore, obviously, because I live in the US now. But then I thought, I really love that. I really love talking to people. I love bringing stories to light, not just my own, but to others, because, we are here to inspire as individuals. But me, myself, I believe I've been given a gift to inspire, guide, teach everyone to some sort of happiness when it comes to their fitness journey, or any journey, if you will, but specifically in their fitness journey, that it's not only for sport, like, to win stuff. It's not just for going because your doctor said so. There's true joy in it, right? There's true joy. And thus you can find your strength through the love of sport, through the love of each other and fitness.
Dude, that's absolutely awesome, man. I love it. And so you know me, dude. Anything where we start talking about people's stories and telling stories, that I will say that's always one of my big deals is if I ever get someone on here that is inherently famous for CrossFitting. I think one of the deals that I always want to do is I don't want to ask them all the normal questions. You know, I laugh because just like you were saying, like podcasts have a tendency, they all ask the same questions and they're all the same thing. Like, I don't want to know those questions. Like, that's great. How did you get into it? What was your top moment? Tell me, you know, I genuinely want to know, like if I'm ever interviewing somebody that is like, I don't know, maybe been to the games, won the games, whatever it is, like, I want to ask them all the stuff, like behind it. Like, I want to hear the stories that go on behind. I want to know their funniest moments, like, you know, those types of things. And so that's really cool. So
yeah, and it's interesting to, like, I mean, you've lived with in your career, I mean, through baseball and obviously through CrossFit. I mean, there is so much, and like my background in water polo, and there's so much that we go through as athletes that, you know, I mean, it's very cliche, but everyone's seen this on Instagram or around with the iceberg. You know, everybody just sees the tip of the iceberg, and it's there's so much more to it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's like where what you've figured out through your podcast, and I mean, and just sitting down and talking to you, the depth that you go to is like you're chipping away at that iceberg and going all the way down. And I think those are the stories. Absolutely, I agree. It's like you want to get that famous person on here and be like, okay, that's great and all, but how does, like, what was the root? Like, how did that affect your family? Like, what were like some things that you and your partner had to go through?
Yeah,
that, because that's what can inspire someone who's going through that at that exact moment.
that's right. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So talking about going down the iceberg. So you've already said two things that I'm probably going to forget about one of them, but okay. So if anybody is taking context clues, you probably have heard Shaye. He dropped the famous Canadian oot. All right. So we obviously have a Canadian background, but you also talked about when you lived in Brazil. So do me a favor. Tell me, and I don't know how long this will take. I don't care how long this will take. Whatever, man. But tell me. So obviously you've lived in Brazil. We've got the Canadian background. I know you and I talked a little bit before about kind of some of the stuff going on with that. But dude, are you just from everywhere? You're just a man of the world, huh?
Yeah, I am 100% a citizen of this beautiful planet. You know, we're going quick, but not going quick. Mom born in India, dad born in South Africa. They moved to Canada in 72 to build a family, to give their future children a better opportunity. Mm-hmm. My brother and I were born in Canada. 17, I leave Canada to go to the US to play water polo. My brother leaves to go to Europe for work. My brother, he didn't finish high school at all. He's just a genius. Started the computer industry, but myself, I was sports. And then from there, the journey just began. Since I was 16, I traveled around the world, living in different countries, working for different companies that allowed me to do that. Funny story. I don't think you've seen it, but on my back, I have the map of the world and tattooed on my back, and I've tattooed the countries I've visited. So I've painted in the countries I've visited. Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah. So it's really cool. It's a cool little thing. And I did that. Everyone's like, well, you don't see it. I'm like, well, that's the whole point. It's because I know. Yeah. And it's a great conversation starter.
Oh, gosh.
Somebody does it. Yeah. And then I moved to Brazil in 2002. And I was married at that point, and then separated and whatnot, but found my footing, if you will. And I lived there for 17 years.
Oh my gosh.
In a city called Curitiba in the south.
Dude, what took you to Brazil in the first place?
So I played water polo, as I mentioned before, and I met people from all over the world. And when I was in university, I had a player from Brazil come up and visit us, right? Like he was young, just like me at that time. And he's like, you got to come to Brazil sometime. You got to come to Brazil. I'm like, all right, whatever, later down the road. Then I started traveling around the world, met some more Brazilians, like, hey, you should come down. Then I wrote a couple of emails. It's like destiny, I guess. I wrote a couple of emails. And I received a message back from this club in a city called Curitiba. They're like, hey, we'd love for you to come play here and, just help coach and stuff and whatnot. So I went down there. And then I just, like I said, I was married at the time, and to a Brazilian. And it just worked out that I found a job. I was able to play water polo and things kept moving on. Stopped playing water polo because started working more. And then 17 years later, I'm married, and then my wife gets transferred to the US. So we come to San Diego in 2020 through her. And now we've been here for the past 3 years. Well, 2 years now. Yeah. So that's like a nutshell of a thing.
Oh yeah. You just covered a whole bunch of history in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
Well, and Brazil to San Diego, boy, you have lived in some of the worst places on earth, haven't you? You know?
Yeah, I mean, there's some pretty bad places. I mean, I've lived in Turks and Caicos, I've lived in Dominican Republic, Bahamas. Yeah, I mean, I've lived in some pretty bad places.
I'd say, okay, first I gotta say this though, is my my wife is gonna be really mad at you when I go home and propose that my next tattoo is gonna be a map of the world with all of the places that I have visited.
There you go.
Dude, I think that is so cool because you know me, and like you said, a conversation starter. I mean, like all of my tattoos have stories behind them, and so yeah, I was explaining to a college student, because one of our college students last night, we just had college group last night, and she asked me, she goes, "Hey, would you mind explaining what your tattoos mean?" I go, "Yeah, absolutely." And so I'm telling her about them and stuff, and then I get to my tattoos that are in Hebrew, and I tell her, I was like, well, here's what they mean. I was like, but here's why I did them in Hebrew, because what I want people to see them and to ask the meaning and have the opportunity to explain it to them. Now, yes, I may not go, depending on what grouping I'm in, or like, you know, obviously there's going to be a level to the depth that I'm going to go into. And then as maybe they ask some questions, or then I can explain it further. But I don't want them to be able to stand off from afar and look at me and see a tattoo and read it and go, okay, cool. And then chunk deuce. And I never have the opportunity to talk to them.
Yeah.
And I think the one on your back is so cool, because I'm sure it would start up the conversation like, hey, why are some of the countries filled in and some of them not?
Absolutely. And each continent is a different color.
Oh,
right?
man.
So, yeah. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty neat. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, man.
And I mean, that's one, like, I mean, I have one here. You can't really, well, yeah, you can.
Oh, yeah.
See here, right here. That's my name in Gujarati, which is from India, but it's my dad's exact handwriting.
Oh, wow.
So I told him to grab a marker and write my full name.
Yeah.
You know, in the language, because I don't know how to write it. I can speak it, but I just can't write it. And then I tattooed it on. And I mean, I had no other tattoos. I had that one and maybe another one. And my dad was so mad when he saw when he saw it. He's like, "What is that?" I'm like, "It's my name. You wrote it." He's like, "Oh, okay, that's okay then." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So it's kind of like, my other ones are bad, but this one's okay.
Other ones are bad, but this one's okay.
yeah, you know. So, but yeah, so I think the whole point of stories is, I think, like yourself, that's why we're here. You know, it's like, if we go back, I mean, of course, now I'm going on the tangent. Last time you were going on tangent.
That's right.
It's beautiful, but it's beautiful. We go back 2,000 years. We go back even a little further than that. Stories. That's what it was. It's like, hey, let's get together. Stories. We share the history. And not enough people do it the right way today. And not enough people have the time and say, hey, let's sit down, whether it be 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever. Taking that time, because we're always in a rush. And I think that's something that I always try to strive to do. I'm known not to be a very good listener. Right. And that's something that's a vulnerability that I'm working on, to live in the moment, because I may look kind of normal, but up here, there's like 500,000 things going on at the same time. So it's like, it's an exercise that I'm working on today, to sit down and, like, when I'm talking to somebody, learn how to be like in a competition. When I'm in a competition, I don't hear music. I don't hear anything. I just see what I got to do. And I think we've lost that. Yeah. We've lost it. We've lost that ability to concentrate and listen to other people, hear the fear in people's voice, hear the, I need help in people's voice, or, hey, I'm happy in people's voice, you know? So I think that's what you and I and others are, you know, with the same mindset are trying to do.
Yeah, man. Yeah, totally. So, oh man, all the tangents. I love tangents. I love it. It's really, because then I get to think about 4 different things, and I'm like, okay, remember this and remember this and remember this. So I love it. You were talking about, man, it's so cool. You talk about, you know, you go back 2,000 years, even further than that, and it's really interesting when we start talking about storytelling, that it was like storytelling was the way in which people passed down history for so long.
Yeah.
And so like when you tell me a story or I tell you a story, like basically what I'm doing is I'm giving you the history of Kyle, or you're giving me the history of Shaye.
Yeah.
And it's so, like social media today is one of those things that it can both be amazing and awful at the same time, because it is a way that I can share my story. Like TikTok, so TikTok is one of those interesting things. Like both, I love TikTok and hate TikTok, because like I love it because every time I get caught in the algorithm with like those TikTok accounts that like are about people sharing stories or telling a story, maybe it's a funny story or impact, whatever it is. Oh, I love them. But then what happens is I get, you open it up one day and I'm neck deep in like political stuff and I can't get out of it no matter how, and I'm like, oh, I just got to shut it down and close it off. But I love the ones when we get into telling stories, because it really is like, you think about the way that information has always been passed down, because whenever there was no television or phones, or, I mean, and we're not even talking about the 1930s, like whenever, I mean, we're talking about in the BC era, people, they would sit around at night as the fire was going down and they would tell stories. Maybe they would tell stories of the past. They would tell stories of their religion. They would tell stories of their beliefs. And you can think about the way in which that connects all of us. I think that's, and it's a huge missing piece now.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, so I went to university for anthropology and psychology. Those are my first 2 degrees, right? Those are my undergrad degrees. And I mean, some people would be like, I don't know what this guy Shaye is on or whatever, or, he's not in a rabbit hole, he's in another hole. But think about this. We're just talking about talking. Even before verbal communication, it's very cyclical if you think about it. Verbal communication, 20,000 years, maybe? Verbal, grunts, whatever it may be. Before that was just pictures. And we're right back at it. But 20,000 years, there was no formal language created. Today, we have a formal language created. So we have both of 2 forms of communication that were vital. And today, we don't even know how to work both of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's really, and like you said, you get caught. Like Laura and I, Laura's my wife. Laura and I, we were at the mall, and I believe we were just walking around talking about traveling. And I said, oh yeah, we have to get a carry-on. I just said it. Now, this may be silly, whatever it may be. We're both on Instagram. Out of nowhere, I'm getting like all these ads, like carry-on bags.
Luggage.
I'm like, what? And then it happens. And it happens a lot. If you think about it, it's really funny. Like, you just put your phone up. I know there's an algorithm. I know there's all this computer stuff, which I definitely don't understand. But it's just insane.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
So, and we get lost down it, and that really scares me, not so much for adults, because adults, whatever. I mean, we are who we are. We can try our best to be better, right? That's like my catchphrase at the gym, be better.
Yeah.
But when I see, when it gets to children,
gosh,
that, I was a school teacher in Brazil. So I taught in an English school for 17 years. And when I see that children have lost the ability to have content, like I always say, we have a story, right? We have stories, we're sharing stories, but we have content. Like, our story is our content. So for you and I to sit down here and randomly talk about something and talk about nothing at the same time, that means that we have content, right? If we say purple elephants, we can figure out a way to talk about purple elephants.
Oh yeah, babe.
You know what I mean? Like, I would talk about delirium, the beer, first. No, that's a pink. But anyways, but you know what I mean? Like, we would find a way. Today, you see that in the younger generation, we've created a lack of content for them, because everything's so fast. It's a zip or a slide or whatever. And that's scary.
Yeah.
I mean, you have children. I don't.
Yeah. I mean, I've got an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old. And it's interesting. I found myself, so now I'm doing my best to almost force a social interaction for them. And not in like a negative way, but like, if we go out, like, I want them interacting with whoever it is that we have to talk to. I mean, I stand there and I monitor the conversation. I don't just like send them into Walmart by themselves, but like when we go, I mean, if we're there to pick something up for my son, Garrig, like I want him to have to go and ask if it's shoes, ask the person for shoes and for the shoe size. And then they go get it. And then he has to tell, like, you have to tell them, because what I started to notice is that, yeah, they weren't communicating, and they were just kind of, they would look at me and they would kind of trust me to do it. And like you said, I mean, you start talking about it for children, because I remember, and you and I are the last generation that will remember this, but we remember growing up without all of that.
Oh yeah.
And so we had to interact on that level. And like my daughter was, I was chuckling. Literally it was Saturday. I was chuckling because, so we go over to my parents' house. Me and my daughter go to my parents' house. My wife she'd had a long day. She was asleep. My son wasn't feeling great, so he stayed at home. My wife and I go over to my parents' house, and my daughter, she's doing some stuff for a while. And then, me and dad and mom we're watching some football games. We're watching some playoff baseball games. We're laughing, telling stories, having a good time. I'm telling about my newest fascination with the soccer team that Ryan Reynolds bought, FC Wrexham. Oh man.
Wrexham.
Oh yeah, right. Oh yeah. I've got a Wrexham jersey coming in for my birthday, so I'm all excited.
No way, that's awesome.
So I have been looking for those, and every time I go on their website, they're always sold out. Well, and because it's not exactly like, I mean, this is Wrexham. Like it's not. They don't have warehouses full of stuff, right?
Oh,
so you have to wait until this tiny little gift shop has the shirt in. Well, so I pulled it up, and there it was, an XL. I was like, bam, sold. So. Nice. But anyway, so sorry, talk about rabbit holes, man.
No, that's cool.
We're talking about it. My daughter walks in, and she's just kind of awkwardly hanging around. And I was like, "What are you doing?" She goes, "I'm bored." And the funny thing about all this was that when she said that, something triggered in my mind, because I was like, all of this stuff. You have television on demand. You have YouTube, and I understand I'm talking about all kinds of technological things, but I was like, all of these things at your fingertips. I remember growing up, and there was literally nothing. We had like one or two TVs in the house, and we didn't have. I mean, when I was growing up, we didn't have video games. I mean, video games existed, but we didn't have any just yet. All of this stuff. And so when I was bored, it was like boredom at times was just a mental state where you just weren't going to go outside. You're just going to kind of sit on the couch and look at the ceiling. And now it's like, man, you have no reason to be bored. Like, what are you bored for?
I mean, like I can tell you a funny story about that. Like that's a leeway into this story, which is really funny, and you'll get it. And possibly most of the listeners will too. But you remember those old wooden box RCA TVs?
Oh yeah, man.
Oh yeah, the tube TVs, right? Yeah, nothing flat screen. It was those. Yeah.
Oh so yeah.
My dad, we had a family friend, Uncle Randy, and he was like this electrician. Great guy, great family, all the things. And he got Uncle Randy to come over and put a lock in the back of the TV. And so basically he had a key that he would take the key out of the TV and it would disconnect the power.
Okay. So
the power is still in the wall, the unit. It's in the wall, but you can't turn the TV on because he's like, there's no, the connection's off for those cables. So it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
And he'd go to work. So we'd come back from school and there's no TV.
Oh man. Yeah.
Until my dad got home. And, then when dad gets home, he puts the key in and dad watches dad stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, that's the way it was. Like, oh, now you have parental controls and all that. These kids are smart today. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. Oh gosh. Yes.
So I think that's like a really, really funny thing. Like you're talking about our time compared to today, like my dad was like, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And like, you can think, oh, that's so cruel. That's, but I mean, I'm not a parent. But my father-in-law always says this, there's no manual to being a parent. Mm-mm. He's like, you're dealt with what you believe and what your story is going to guide you through, examples that you've seen, and your family gawking in your ear the whole damn time. So you got to filter what you think is best at that time in your life, right? So there's no manual, right? So, my dad, that was one of the things my dad did. So what did we do in this time? Going back to your daughters, like, what did we do? We learned how to cook.
Oh yeah.
Because he was like, hey, there's nothing to do, so watch mom cook, learn how to cook. We'd wake up early, and we'd have to, because we had to iron my dad's shirts before we went to work. Clean the house. Like, those are things that maybe that's why I hate it so much today. I'll clean but it's like, oh God, here we go. But so it's kind of one of those things where what we went through, that time, I know nostalgia is not always good, but I think a little bit of that today would help, and I miss it. I'm honest. I miss it. I miss, like, okay, what are we gonna do on the weekend? Netflix, TV, boom. Okay. But hey, let's go camping. Yeah, you can go camping. Oh, but it costs too much money. So then you start breaking it down and giving yourself use. And I mean, not everybody. I'm not saying everybody does that, but it's kind of one of those things where now you actually have to think, because things are expensive today.
Gosh, they are. Yeah.
I mean, especially with children, but I mean, like, in general,
just in general. Oh, yes.
I don't know what you're out in Texas. What's gas like in Texas?
Right around $3 a gallon, okay. And I know you're laughing. Yeah. And so I get it. But
we're at 680.
I know. No, trust. Oh, dude, here's the deal. And I get it, man. Like, is relatively, we're cheap. Absolutely. And so it's just funny because you talk about it, I mean, based on what it is. I mean, because you guys are like, when it's good, you guys are like 4, right?
When it's good, 389, 4.
Yeah, absolutely. See, when it's good, we're like I don't know, right around. We even had it as recently as 2 years ago, 3 years ago. It was like 190. So, what? Yeah, dude. See, everybody should. All you guys should move to Texas. Like, I don't know why y'all. Hey, look, San Diego is beautiful. I get it. I don't know why y'all don't. Like, there are all kinds of houses in my neighborhood that are for sale right now. Like, come on, baby.
It's up to Laura. As soon as she gets that remote job, we're out of here. Honestly, as soon as her job goes remote, I mean, I can find a job anywhere. Oh yeah. Like, we would definitely be out. I mean, I'd go to Texas. Oh yeah. 100% I'd go to Texas.
Come on, baby. Now you just gotta have a good AC unit when it's July and August, man. But other than that, man, it's awesome, dude.
And a Jenny, because in winter you may not have electricity.
Yeah, well, that happened one winter. I know. It was I'll tell you, man, I got some stories from that one. This is about you, but oh, dude, that was a nuts winter. That was a nuts. Well, because that was the thing, because like, and I'm talking to people, and people are like, well, when we're talking about, like, we can't get out on the roads and go to work, though, why don't they just salt the roads? Like, dude, there ain't no salt trucks down here. We've never needed salt trucks before, ever. That's true. Like whenever it like typically if it ices, it will ice for like the morning, and then by the afternoon, the sun, even in the middle of winter, the sun is melted at least the pavement. Like you can still drive on. No way, dude. 7 straight days where it would ice, and then it would and then it would ice the next night, and it was this constant cycle that we have never seen before. Yeah, it was, so you're right though. Yes, you're right. Yeah, but you know what? I hate to tell you this, dude. We all got generators anyway. So everyone's got a we're in Texas, man. We've got generators and gun safes. I mean, that's the two things that your house comes standard with. Generators and gun safes.
Hey, why not?
Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah. Dude. Okay.
So Go ahead.
So you were talking about job. You can get a job where you could, man. You're one of those personalities. You can get a job wherever you want. But dude, let me ask you, if you don't mind talking, tell me about your role with CBDMD.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So CBDMD, funny story. I was at never heard of CBDMD. Uh-huh. Honestly, never heard of them. And I watched the games last year. Uh-huh. Right. Never even noticed all the branding and stuff, and and then I'm at Wadapalooza, and I was at Wadapalooza working with RX Smart here, Dave and Susan.
Oh yeah, no Dave. Oh yeah.
Right. And they invited me to go out and work the booth. So I'm there, and then Susan's like, oh, we got to go to, like, I'm going to go walk over here to the CBDMD thing to pick up some stuff for me. And they have pet stuff as well. I'm like, all right, cool. So we walk over there, and she starts talking to this guy, and I'm like, all right, cool. I guess I'll just like hang out here. I'm not going to butt in the conversation.
Yeah.
And then Susan calls me over, presents me to John Weston. And I'm just listening to them talk about, there's no ROI, that's like, it's really weird. They've invested all this money and all this and stuff like that. And then I was like, okay. And I was just asking some questions to get more information as to what they did and whatever. And then he's like, what do you think? And then, Susan's amazing. And, she's really straightforward. And she's like, that's part of the business. We've been in it for 10 years, and there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs and stuff like that. And then he asked me, he's like, well, what do you think? Like, I'm like, well, in my honest opinion, like straight up, y'all did it wrong. And he's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, from what I'm hearing is you threw a $1.5 million at a community that is based on trust. And he's like, well, what do you mean? Can you elaborate? I'm like, yeah, well, if you want to get into the CrossFit space, you need to, one, stay on the sidelines and observe what other companies are doing, the successful ones, and the ones that are failing as well. You needed to like make sure that there was a need. There was, but then you need to make sure what the other companies that were in it before did wrong. And what is the culture about? How many people in your company, I didn't know how big it was, but I was like, how many people in your company actually do CrossFit? And he's like, again, not too many. I'm like, well, that's one.
Oh yeah.
And how many of those people that do CrossFit are in your marketing department? Because you kind of have to have, you don't have to be a great CrossFitter, but you have to understand the community, that's the culture of the sport. And then he was like, well, what would you suggest? I'm like, well, look, CrossFit, like anything, if any company wants to get into it, it's grassroots.
Oh gosh, yes.
Grassroots. And he's like, yeah, we tried that. We went to an affiliate thing. We tried affiliate programming. I'm like, okay, well, no, that's also wrong. Because gym owners have so much on their plate. There are two types of gym owners, I told them. I said, the first one is your professional gym. Like people who really are invested. Like this is what they're going to do. They're going to make money out of it. The second one is your hobby gym, which is, somebody who loves CrossFit, has another job, and then has a gym and just runs it. So if they're breaking even, being able to pay their coaches, being able to like give their community some fun stuff, get new equipment, they're happy. Yeah. They're happy. And he's like, yeah, but we talked to them. I'm like, but that's not who you need to reach out to. You need to reach out to the people who have the most influence in the whole place and, in the space. And he's like, yeah, we got athletes. I'm like, no, that's not it. You need to talk to the coaches. You need to talk to the nutrition therapists, like the nutritionists, the therapists who are in those communities. But more so, you need to talk to the people who inspire others in those facilities. Yeah. And he's like, well, that's really interesting. Let's, that's pretty cool. Would you be interested in like talking a little bit more about it? I'm like, sure. And like Wadapalooza finished on the 13th, 14th, and I was flying to Brazil on the 15th. So I said, look, I'm going down to Brazil for a couple of weeks, but when I get back, maybe we can talk. And then when I got back, I sent him a message and he's like, hey, do you mind flying out to Charlotte? Come talk with me and the CEO and all that stuff. I'm like, sure, no problem. So they flew me out. And I sat down and basically what I told him, I told the CEO at the time. I'm like, look, y'all just doing it wrong. Like you got to go grassroots. You got to do this. And then they're like, well, hey, would you be interested in putting together an ambassador influencer program? Oh, wow. And I'm like, sure, no problem. Yeah. I reached out to people that I knew from my other experiences, some friends, some colleagues who I know who are like good people, because the whole concept was I didn't want to do it like other companies did it, where, it's like, hey, we'll give you a code, we'll give your families a code, and then you can like buy product from us and promote it. I'm like, no. What I want to do is I want to make sure that everyone's getting the win. Everyone's got to get the win. So we created the program. In our first 2 months, we made the influencers, the ambassadors, were able to generate more money sales, if you will, which is not their job, sales, than the CrossFit code.
Oh my gosh.
The actual CrossFit code.
Yeah.
I started in March. In April, their contract with CrossFit ended. They didn't renew the contract because they didn't get what they were thinking they would get.
Absolutely.
And I gave them the analogy of the affiliate fees. I'm like, look, when we pay affiliate fees, we pay $3,000 a year, and you don't get much for that.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you don't. Yes, you get to use the name CrossFit, put it on your T-shirt, sell. You get your name on the website, and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, if you're going to pay 1.5 and be on their affiliate partner network, you better hope that they're, giving you way more than that.
Oh yeah.
Especially if you're not educating people, and you notice this at the games, as well, you didn't have a booth, but kind of like a one-man totem pole that you were, a walking totem pole, which is kind of cool. I love it. People, it's like information area. It's like, hey, if you need information, go talk to that guy over there.
Yeah.
With the mustache. That's
right.
But you notice like how many people walk around that place, and if you're not giving them education, they're not going to go after your product.
No.
So that's what we did. Since then, we got back. We went to the games. We did something brand new at the games. We didn't get a booth. We did an off-site activation, which probably upset a few people. Yeah, which is fine. You can do whatever you want. We partnered with the city of Madison. We partnered with Bringington Boats and Wit. Wit is amazing. Dan over at Wit and his team were just phenomenal. They set up this really great area. We put up our booth. Ice Barrel jumped in. A whole bunch of amazing companies that have good people. Yeah. If you ever had a chance, definitely need to talk to Nick and Wyatt over at Ice Barrel. Amazing stories, amazing people, hearts, and they're in it like we are, for people. Yeah. Stories, So yeah, we put some like-minded people together, and it was really well. It went really well, successful and stuff. And then right after the games, John left. Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. John left. And then I was kind of out. Like, okay, so what do I do? Yeah. And then I talked to the CMO, Matt, and Tim Dinger, who took over, and we found a way to continue the project, right? They're going to keep their eye focused on sports as a general concept. And then I continue to work with the ambassadors and the influencers, keep building up that area, right? Because at the end of the day, big companies need to realize that if you want, it's not just throwing out millions of dollars if you're not telling people the story, or you're not getting people. So that's my motto when it came to talking to the ambassadors. I said, we want real life, real stories, real people. That's it. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. So, when like you receive some product, a bunch of people that I know receive product, I don't care if you post stuff. I don't. It doesn't matter to me and to the people at CBDMD. What does matter is if you really, really, really love it, just share it. Yeah. And that goes back to not using social media. That goes back to communicating. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like talking to people, and it's just like, you can tell so much more. If I put a post about, the gummies, the CBD gummies, but if I talk to you, you're going to hear it in my voice. You're going to be like, oh, that really actually really works. So that's what's happening with CBDMD. It's going well. We're still planning out next year, 2023, how that's going to look. I have a couple of projects that I really want them to get involved in, which are close to my heart, and Power Monkey being one of them. Yeah. Sure. They were involved in May, but since John left, we didn't get involved now in fall, but that's okay. That, we'll fix all that stuff up. But yeah.
Dude, that's incredible, man. That's it. I'll tell you though. So to this point, our favorite thing has been, I don't remember what it's called anymore, but it's like the cream that for muscle soreness that
the freeze.
Yes, the freeze. Oh my gosh, that's been amazing. So good. Oh, that's it. That's absolutely incredible. My wife has loved it too, because my wife, she'll get headaches because her neck will get so tense. And
Yep.
so shit, man, we put that on that neck. Oh my gosh, it's awesome. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's like almost instantaneous,
Oh yeah,
It's
it
like
really is. It really is. So
and it's
it's
go
interesting.
ahead.
You're talking about the activation off site. I
Yeah.
heard so many people saying incredible things about that. Like people that didn't know that I had a connection with you. They're like,
Right.
I would be talking to, just, doing what I was doing at the games, having these conversations. And people would like ask me actually, have you, so there's like, do you know this guy? I think his name is, and they would start like, Shaye. And I was like, Shaye? And they're like, yeah. I was like, I actually do know Shaye pretty well. And they're like, oh, I was about to say, like, you need to talk to that guy. And it was funny. But they're talking about the activation, how much fun they had at that, and WIT and CBDMD. And so that was really cool that you guys did that. And I think y'all did an incredible job because, like you said, it wasn't just about let's throw up some signage. It was about like, hey, let's talk to people. Let's get people involved. And through drawing them in that way, then you create this pathway that they want to hear more. They want to be involved more. And I think it's one of those things that, like, people that tell stories, people that listen and create relationships, they're almost magnetic. That in a world that often repels, that when you have people that draw in, like, it's such a magnetic thing that when you give them another area, like, hey, let's go over here and let's keep this conversation, let's keep this relationship, this party going, and they're going to follow. And I think they did, from what I heard.
Yeah, they really did. And one of the cool things about that was, if anybody's ever been, like, anyone who's listening who's never been to the CrossFit Games, the CrossFit Games is pretty much for CrossFitters.
Oh yeah.
But what we want to do is give an experience of the CrossFit atmosphere to the city of Madison. So the CrossFit Games got it right this year when they did that workout, the Capitol.
Yeah, absolutely.
They got it right. Like, I have to tip my hat for that one because they involved the community. They involved the city. It's like, hey, we're going to go right down the middle of your city. So come out and watch. Like, that's pretty cool. But what we did was we were able to partner up with the city of Madison and invite people from the city to come and hang out with us. They had free kayaks, free stand-ups all weekend. Right? And all they had to do was sign up. And it was so cool. They had s'mores in the lake. So, like, they put canoes out there with like fire, and you can go out with your kayak and, like,
no kidding. Oh, that's incredible.
Little baggies, and you go out there, make s'mores. Another day there was a barge out there making hot dogs, hamburgers. There's a floating like band every night. There's a coffee, like a floating coffee barge. So people, like, in the morning would take their kayaks out, their stand-ups, and go have coffee in the middle of the lake. Wow. So yeah, it was really, really well done. And the cool thing is that's what people in Madison do in the summer. So we kind of just implemented ourselves in their lives. We didn't take over their lives. We just implemented, which most events do. So, I think that's one thing that we're going to try to do in the future. Hopefully Wadapalooza, we're going to send a team up there, down to Miami, and do the same thing, maybe not as big as games. But just so you have an idea, numbers wise, we spent 7% of what they did the year before.
And probably got far more in return.
Way more.
Yeah.
Way more. Like, so you can't, I think one of the biggest misconceptions is whenever you do an event like this, or like for yourself, going out to the games and spending the money to be there, right? That is your personal marketing. That is marketing, right? And you're not going to get ROI on that.
Yeah.
Like, if you spend $2,000 for those 5 days, you are not going to get $2,000 in memberships immediately.
Yeah.
Like, to talk about, signing up for the emails and all the things that, Faithfully Fit offers, but you're in the door. Yeah. So a lot of the companies who go out there, smaller companies, this is my advice to the smaller companies who want to get into space. If they say, yeah, you know what, I don't know if spending $10,000, if I'm going to see that return, I'll be honest, you're not.
Yeah.
You're not. The only people who see a fraction of a return at the games are people who have product at the games.
Yeah.
And it's a very, very bare, because they got to take all that stuff out. That's why in the last couple of days, if you walk around the games, or the last day, they're pretty much giving stuff out because they don't want to pay for it to go home.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So that's one of my, one of the pieces of advice I have.
Oh.
Again, I am not a graduate or a specialist in marketing. I just know people,
Yeah.
and like share my experiences and say, hey, look, this is not what I would do because it didn't work for me.
Yeah.
Right. If we go back to a story, like when I was 14 or 15, I think I was 15, my brother was 13. So my brother's a computer genius since he was a child. And our friend Richard, we're like, hey, you know what? We're going to build this computer program and whatever, blah, blah, blah. My brother, and we were all in junior achievement and all this stuff. And we're like, all right, cool. So my brother started knocking this out. We created this little simple software thing. I don't even remember what it was anymore. And then we're like, we took it to junior achievement and they're like, yeah, well, that's a little bit too advanced for, for junior achievement. You should be making like CD clocks and stuff. And we're like, you remember those?
Yeah.
CD clocks. And we're like, dude, no, we got like a computer program here going on, whatever. And then we're like, you know what? Let's go big. So we went to our dad and we're like, hey, Dad, look, there's this thing called Comdex and we want to get a booth. He's like, what the hell is that? So, then my brother explained it and he's like, all right, how much does it cost? He's like, oh, $2,500 or something at the time. Yeah. And then my dad's like, all right, but what do you expect from it? My brother's like, I don't know. We just want to show our product off and whatever happens kind of deal. So we got this little booth. We just had a table. We didn't have a backdrop. We didn't have any. We just had a table and a computer. And then 3 knuckleheads just hanging out. And like all you see is like Intel and all these things all over the, and there's just us in the middle and stuff. And we didn't sell any. we didn't sell a dime. We didn't, but the good thing that came out of it was that my brother was picked up by Silicon Graphics.
Nice.
So it was an opportunity. It was a $2,500 investment that gave my brother the life he has today, kind of thing. Absolutely. You know what I mean? So it's really cool. It's like one of those things where, you know what? Yeah, sometimes we are going to invest in things and it's not going to work, but it might.
It might, yeah. Well, that's what I think. You talk about that. You talk about the games and the booths. That's one of the things I noticed is the only reason that you should go and spend that kind of money is if spending that kind of money is not going to be detrimental to you and your company. Like if I would have gone out and spent $10,000 to set up a booth and to try and do what I do and have conversations and make relationships and spread hope. Even if I were to take t-shirts and sell t-shirts, for example, like it's not that it's not going to be worth it in terms of the relationships, but the financial return is you're not really going to see that. It's like, it's really understanding, like, what is the purpose of this booth? Like, what is the purpose of wanting to do this? Now, look, if and I don't know if there's many preachers out there that do, but if I was a preacher that had $10,000 hanging around and could invest in all the bells and whistles that you could put at a booth and make it attractive to have people come by. Right. Okay, maybe. But dude, like just like you saw, like it's so much more impactful to just walk around with a smile on your face. Absolutely. And respond to a question that somebody asks you. You wind up doing so much. Because it also creates a different setting. If you set up a booth, man, it's like, hey, this is my business. Like, come to my business. Even if it's not a business, come to my business. And so they come into your space. Meeting someone in their space is so much different.
And I think that's where we've, I think that's where the people who want to participate in this space have to find other outlets. Yeah. And that's why, for example, just off the top of my head, if you, myself and Kogan were to put on the shirts and walk around Madison and visit drop-in gyms and talk to people, we would have a bigger ROI than just getting a booth at the box. Because let's be honest, majority of people would just walk on by. We wouldn't let them walk on by.
Yeah. Yeah.
We wouldn't let them, but like you would see that for that to happen, you'd have to be on the main strip.
Oh yeah.
Like if you're tucked away in the corner, which is probably what we would be able to afford at the beginning.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. It's like one of those things where it's great to go to the games. It's great to promote, but you have to be very careful in the sense of, like you just said, like, can you afford it? Like is $10,000, $16,000, and every year it gets more and more expensive.
Oh yeah.
is that something that you've put aside for marketing?
Mhm.
If you have, great. Now, can you use that in another format?
Yeah.
Which you 100% can.
Oh yeah.
Just, I think you would do a better with 16,000 when you're a small company, $16,000, hire somebody to run your marketing for a year.
Mhm.
Your social
Yeah.
media.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That'll cost you maybe $2,000.
Yeah.
It might be 20 at the end, but they've done way more things
Oh gosh, yes.
that in a month
Oh, yeah.
than, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of things, that we can do to help. And I actually had a couple of thoughts. I was like, you know what? Maybe we should get together, get a booth next year and just have story time, or,
Oh, that'd be amazing.
no, you know what I mean? Like just
Yeah.
something where we can just hang out and cop it. Now, it doesn't have to be there, but it could
Yeah.
be like, hey, we're going to be at this bar.
Yeah.
And we're going to just hang out, tell stories, whatever. Hey, we're going to be at the park.
Yeah.
We're going to surround. So I think and I thought, hey, I'm going to the games next year anyways. So I was like, maybe we should do something like that and see how it goes. Maybe a little faithfully fit and strength through love and fitness.
Oh, dude.
All the things together.
See, now you're getting the wheels turning, man. Now
I know, man. That's what we do. That's what we do, buddy.
I'm all excited, dude. You got me going. I was already, dude. Like when this is over, I was already going to pitch you about 7 different ideas that you've already given me.
Hey, you got all the ideas. That is one thing. I don't care, but I mean, if this was 30, 40 years ago, this kind of job existed. The idea job. Person who just came up with ideas.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But yeah, like I thought about that. I thought that'd be a really cool thing. Like I loved what Mike Malloy did with his team.
Yeah.
Getting the campers out there and just driving up and let's go.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It was awesome. It was wonderful.
Yeah. Did you go with them as well or no?
No, I didn't go with him. No, I hung out with them. Because I'm obviously through Kogan. That first night that they got in town, I was over there helping them and messing with them as they were trying to set stuff up. I was not helping them set stuff up because I have the inability to put things together. That's my spiritual gift is lifting heavy things. That's all I got, man. And so you need me to lift it up, I'll lift it up. You need me to put it together, it ain't happening. So
I love
that's
that.
So well, dude, Shaye, this could go on for hours. And I know initially I said I don't care, but the problem is we got to save some good stuff for later.
Absolutely.
And so this was incredible, dude. Thank you so much for joining us, man.
I appreciate you and everybody and the amazing work you're doing.
Oh yeah, dude. Okay. How do we find you? Okay. So obviously we have your podcast, Strength Through Love and Fitness. That's on Spotify. What is it on? What else?
It's on all the things.
Oh, all the things. There it is.
All the things. Yeah. It's on Apple. We just got accepted onto Apple. So that's pretty cool too.
Nice. Very nice.
Apple, Spotify. Yeah. iHeart, I believe as well. So,
wonderful.
Yeah. So we're on that. And then, just on my Instagram, at Patel_Shaye CF. Right. You can find me there. And I mean, check out linear progression too. If you're looking for programming, I know that we got the Real McCoy method as well, which is wonderful. We love our Vanessa.
We do.
Yes, we do. It was just her birthday a couple of days ago.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be in trouble. I haven't called her yet. I need to call her. But the problem is, because the problem is I'm gonna call her, and then when I call her, she's gonna ask me like, how have the squats been going? And then all of a sudden I go from talking to my, one of my very best friends to my coach, and then I'm whining like, dude, you're killing me here. And she's like, you're welcome. I'm like, oh my gosh.
All I wanted to say was happy birthday. Like,
oh yeah. Yeah. It's like, I was just calling to wish you a happy birthday, Vanessa. So,
yeah.
Oh yes. Yeah. Oh yes. And she always,
I think I'm going up there on Wednesday to visit.
Oh, very nice. That's all. Well, how far are you from them?
Well, so I'm really far from them, but like the gym that I work at is halfway there. So I'll just go straight from the gym.
Keep on going. Yeah.
Yeah. Just keep on going. But,
awesome.
But yeah, so I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I mean, our talks, like you said, can go on for hours and hours and hours.
Oh yeah, dude.
But hey, you got a few ideas. Let's get those ideas happening.
Heck yeah, buddy. All right, man. Dude, thank you so much. Hey, and ladies and gentlemen, make sure go follow Shaye. Check him out. He's got amazing stuff. Absolutely awesome. And you will hear from him again. And hey, guys, as always, until I talk to you again, stay faithfully fit.